as per the session plan, Professor Sujata Mukherjee, who talks today in setting the context of this FDP, in understanding the background to photography, media, and communication. And I now request Ma'am Jyoti, who takes up the floor and then takes forward. Hope Ma'am Sujata Mukherjee is ready. And I request you, Madam.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, this is Madam Mahalakshmi. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to the 5-day FTP on Atal FTP on photography and media communication. Now, I take the privilege of introducing our resource person, Professor Sujata Mukherjee. Professor Sujata Mukherjee is a professor, Department of English and Foreign Language University. Professor Sujata Mukherjee is known for her knowledge. She did her master's, MPhil and PhD in English literature. She organized, attended and chaired many national and international conferences, and also she has n number of publications in her credit. Professor Sujata Mukherjee served various committees as Dean, Board of Studies, IFLU, Editor, International Journal of Media Studies, Member of Standing Academic Council, Member of Admissions and Health Advisory Committee, and many more. Professor Sujata Mukherjee is reputed by IFLU as one of the 2 experts to establish Cambodia India Center for English Language and Training in Cambodia as a part of Government Indian project. Once again, we welcome you, ma'am, to this Photography and Media Communication FTP. Now we are eagerly waiting for your enthusiastic words. Please address our enthusiastic gathering with your words, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we can hear you. Even we are seeing you, ma'am.
Yes, I can't see myself actually, my video. Any case, I want to share my PowerPoint, if it is possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
It's possible, but I'm just checking. I have to share the screen, right?
Yeah.
All right, one moment. Can you see this?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Can you see me at the same time?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
All right, all right. One moment. Let me start the slideshow. Oh, this poll is interrupting actually.
We stop it. We don't disturb you in the middle.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I request,
Coming very quickly.
Yeah, the poll is to end.
I would love to do that as soon as, yeah. Can you see me and can you see the slide now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning, all of you. I see as many as 180 and more participants here. I thank Lady College of Technology for giving me this opportunity. I'll come to the vote of thanks later. But today, I would like to share some of my inputs in digital media and education during the pandemic. And then the pandemic actually has pushed the world to a drastic ways of reinventing to cope with the new normal. And after the initial phase of complete overhaul, and it is critical to understand for all of us how this digital media and education are impacted in the education sector. Though the title of the conference is Photography, Media and Communication, there are experts who are dealing with the photography, but I would like to deal especially with digital media and education during the pandemic, because all of us are thrown into a situation where we have to suddenly invent. You know, initially when the pandemic began, there was this kind of fear to save our own lives. Then it was followed by frustration that so many days of staying at home, no way to see, no way to find, where to go, how to deal with things, especially in the sector of education. And then we were all frustrated. And then after a very little while, all of us woke up to a new normal called, stop seeing people, wearing masks, washing hands, okay, staying indoors and things like that. And there's a new normal in the sector of education where we have to cope with things, everything online actually. There's nothing we could do face to face, and everything we could do only through online, because most of the teachers, especially English teachers, are attending this conference. I thought maybe I should do this topic. This would be more relevant for today, because there are a lot of issues which we have to address at this time. So I thought maybe this is the right time to deal with that. And then our immediate and effective response to the crisis was to go digital. Okay, and then developing robust online platforms. I know it has become very necessary to offer continuity in learning, because suddenly it got cut off before we finished our syllabus, before we finished our final exams. We had to actually jump into a situation where we have to suddenly start going online teaching, and reinventing ways and methods of conducting the examinations, and provide academic security to students to finish their academic year and things like that. It was actually a bizarre situation. Slowly we coped up. Many are still coping up, because it depends. Not every teacher is equipped to do online teaching. Not every teacher knows the digital platforms, digital way of operating things. So some teachers are still learning, settling down to teach. So I'm going to deal with some of the questions in digitality and education, which will actually set the tone for the conference, for the FTP program. So how has the present pandemic impacted education sector? That is one question I'm going to deal with. The advantages, risks, and challenges in going digital, and the strategies to deal with the current issues, and dealing with student support and quality education. These are 4 questions I chose to actually speak on today's program. COVID-19 and how it has impacted education. I have already discussed few points that we were not prepared for anything like this before, and we were not even expecting, at least for cyclones, tornadoes, or any other natural calamities. At least there would be some signal. But here there was no signal, and suddenly we were thrown into a bizarre situation called COVID-19, and then a lot of things we had to learn, understand, adjust, and cope with. The empty classroom, which is showing here, actually shows, it stands for the emptiness of the academic sector in the initial moments of COVID-19. So let us see how. Well, we are forced to adopt digital technology, the online learning, where people, actually everything is online now. You can use any platform. There are a number of digital platforms, like to begin with WhatsApp to chat with our students, and then maybe YouTube if you want to record your class and then actually give a YouTube link to your class, you can do that. Or maybe Facebook Live, if you want to do, you can do that, because YouTube Live is very expensive. It involves money. And there are other platforms like Google Classroom, Cisco. Now we are on Zoom. This was the initial platform actually for many things. And also many other social media platforms we were exploring, learning, and we ourselves as teachers were in confusion actually during that time. So we were actually forced into a situation where we had to change the traditional setting of the classroom, traditional pedagogies had to be changed, and suddenly go digital. What does digital teaching or involving digital technology or 100% dependence on digital teaching involve? There are some advantages in this, we can say. Now we are actually, if you want to teach your class, okay, you have to plan and preparation, because you will be self-telecasting or broadcasting your teaching. You will be speaking to students on video, and you have to prepare in advance, and you also must be prepared with a lot of questions you will be facing after the class. And then the teachers themselves will be acquiring digital communication skills. Okay, how to consume digital material and how to use them, how to share them. These are the things. I'll be coming to digital skills in the later part of this speech. And then we also learn technology adoption for better learning. Now we know that we have a lot of online resources. If you want any material, you can study online, and then you can give a lot of supporting material to students for a better understanding. You can also give them the links for the photographs or videos if they want to learn new things. And then you can do a lot of things, and then eliminate the barriers in providing quality education. Because students actually, when you teach online and when you give them some links to study material or to YouTube links or whatever, you will be actually enriching the experience of the students. Because see, listening to a lecture may not give them good, retention power, but, supporting them with the additional material and additional, videos or audios or photographs and all will definitely make it more interesting for them and more possibilities for them to acquire knowledge and to have better retention than compared to lecturing methodology. So, and it also improved the practical knowledge of the students, because they can explore ways and means of understanding the content. Apart from what the teacher has said, they can go beyond teaching or beyond what they learned in the class, and then they can acquire more skills compared to the traditional classroom. And learning from more channels. I told you that, initially, suppose they don't understand one concept, there are learning apps also. For example, you have Byju's. Okay, school children especially, or +2 children also, they're accessing online learning apps. And then you can also access materials made easy. You have channels like MOOCs, okay, massive open education resources, whatever. And then also Swayam classes. Students can actually register for courses online with the government, like Swayam and MOOCs. Educational multimedia centers are preparing courses and giving them for free online. People can actually access the lectures recorded on that, and then they can also take additional guidance from them. Okay, the most important thing which the digital learning has done is personalized learning. Students can listen to a lecture, suppose it is posted on YouTube, or if it is a recorded lecture, because when you're doing a lecture, you might as well record it and keep it for the future use. Suppose the learners are slow, they can listen to it or again, watch it again, and then understand things for them. It makes learning more personal, because in a class, not all students have the same pace of learning. So they can actually decentralizes and personalize learning for students, so that they can approach it, because it is free material. They can actually look at the content at their free time, and then they can learn, and they can take their own speed. They can learn at their own speed. And personalized learning is individuals can actually explore, reinvent things, and then better their learning experience. Okay, knowledge retention. I was telling you about this. When you use digital learning, it is not completely relied on lecture method alone. You will give them material. You can also post some YouTube links or something for the students to learn. So here it is given earlier when teacher training was given, people were learning something called Edgar Dale's cone of experience. The cone will be like this, distributing the knowledge retention. For example, if a student listens to a lecture and how much he can remember, maybe 10% or 20%. Suppose you present the learning with photographs or pictures drawn on the blackboard earlier. I'm talking about the history. So they can, maybe the retention levels will be maybe 30 to 40% or something like that. Or if they go for a field visit and actually go for excursion and watch things, see things for themselves, maybe it will be more. But if they do things, what they learn, if they apply their learning and do things on their own, Okay, suppose you teach them public speaking. Okay, listening to a lecture on public speaking is different. And showing some examples of good leaders who are good public speakers can give them some more knowledge. But if the student himself or herself spoke, for example, on a topic, that gives them first-hand, hands-on experience, actually, first-hand experience in speaking. So doing things will actually better the situation. Here, if you give a lecture, maybe 5% they will retain. That is the outcome. And then if you discuss with students on several questions, maybe 15%. If you present the content with lecture, with videos, then maybe 35%. Then there are games. Gamification is one of the integral parts of digital technology in the classroom today. Sometimes, for example, you create a small game. Let us not think about big video games which we cannot design. But if you prepare something like a crossword puzzle, or maybe some quiz or something, that you can also make them participate in games like that. Or you can create your own games of language and make them participate, 45%. And 50 plus with virtual reality. Suppose you are teaching a lesson on maybe plastics, for example, or maybe environmental pollution or something like that. If you give them the YouTube links on how scientists are doing the analysis of this and how it's going to be, how the future is going to be if this continues, then they will watch the videos, the retention will be more. So digital technology, involving digital technology in teaching and learning has always advantages. Can provide more experience to students, and knowledge is not limited to classroom lecture alone. You can actually give them different channels through which the students can learn, and it is a learning experience for the teachers themselves. And then discussion questions. The discussion platform is a learning experience for teachers and also for the students, because learning is never one-sided. The teachers learn a lot of things to students sometimes because they're very smart now, technically very sound students we have. So it could be mutual. So there are different levels of knowledge retention when you start learning digitally or start teaching digitally. It actually makes very easy for the teachers if they know how to teach, how to go the digital way in their teaching, because you prepare your lessons. The same lesson could be edited, refreshed the next year. Maybe you can add more content or relevant to the contemporary classroom, things like that. It makes it easier for the teachers and easier for the students also. There is no doubt that integration of technology in the classroom, digital technology in the classroom, whether online or face-to-face mode, is going to have larger benefits than the traditional classroom, no doubt about it. All right. And then in terms of evaluation, we have uniform evaluation system. Whatever the student sends online is recorded. And then there is no very little chance for manipulation in that case. And uniform evaluation will be there for everybody. And then unbiased and error-free evaluation also is possible because you have the content ready in front of you. Suppose they send an email of their assignment, and based on that, you can take your own time, evaluate it, and then they, as per their performance, you can give them grades or marks or whatever. And the same will be maintained by the academic organizations. There is no manipulation anywhere, because the student knows what assignment he has sent, what is the quality of assignment, and then how many marks he deserves, number one. Number two, the teachers also know that it is a transparent system where anytime the teacher could recall, this is what I did. The student can ask, this is how I did my assignment, how come I got lesser marks? And organizations, academic institutions can store the performance records. Okay, they can alert the students, look, this is your internal evaluation. This is your performance in internal evaluation. This is how you can do better in your future evaluations and upgrade yourself or improve your grade. And then there is no third-party interference. If you have digital examinations, I'll be coming to proctored examinations the next slide maybe. No third-party interference. You don't have to go for second evaluation, third evaluation, and things like that. Everything is digitally recorded, and then you can give instant or timely results, especially objective type questions. You can immediately post your results because it is automatic online. And also it is easy for you to actually evaluate online. And personalized feedback. Once the assignment is submitted, you can also type what are the pros and cons of that assignment, what did the student do and what could have been done, and then how to improvise himself. It is personalized feedback, easy for the students and also for the teachers. There's something called proctored examinations at blockchain technology. These two things might be new to many people. I'll just explain a bit about proctored examinations. So now the real crisis is in conducting the examinations. Many schools and colleges could not conduct examinations. And then sometimes crucial examinations like 10th standard and all, without writing the exam, we had to give all pass result. And God knows how they rank the students. I have no idea about that. But you know, it has posed, the pandemic has posed a clear-cut threat in the system of evaluation. How to conduct examinations. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Yes, madam, you're audible.
Right? Okay, if there's any problem, you message me on my mobile.
Sure, ma'am, sure.
I'm so sorry. Proctored examinations is a digital online examination system which has been designed by the corporates, where everything is online. There will be examination proctor. Proctor is somebody who actually maintains the discipline in the universities. So proctored examinations are everything online, and then you will be sitting and writing your examination. You will be showing the ID cards, and you will be shown the questions, question number. You have the freedom to choose whichever question you want to answer, and the questions you haven't answered will be highlighted in red. And then when the time is over, exactly on the dot, the examination is automatically submitted. And then there will be online, a digital invigilator who will be observing the movements of the students, and they cannot take a mobile phone and copy. They cannot take a book and copy, and they have to strictly write the exam. Examinations are designed mostly from closed book examination to open book examination. Most probably will be transferring soon with this system. So proctored examinations, there's no need of worrying about how to conduct examinations, because everything will be digital. Even checking the ID card, checking the hall ticket, and then writing the answers, everything. You can the students can always write the exam, come back and relook at their answers and then modify if they want. All those facilities will be there. Blockchain technology is, now each college, each university has control over the records of the students or the teachers, whatever. Now, the blockchain technology it is a shared technology where the student's performance is recorded and put online, and any institution can access it anytime. Slightly dangerous, but this is what is going to come up. We don't know whether the governments and private organizations are going to adopt this. The blockchain technology is, you don't have control over your records. All you can do is, okay, in the present semester, this is the score of the student, this is his performance level, and this is online. Any institution can access. And final results, any complaints about the student or any positive feedback about the student, everything is online, which could be accessed by any academic institution or government organization or UPSC or somewhere. They can access your information. Your student records are safe online. Even after 10 years, if somebody wants to check who studied where and how many marks, what was his performance, what was his college record, they can do that. These two are little advanced, proctored examinations and blockchain technology. So these might be used in the future in case if we have to continue our, we are hearing a lot of news about new bacteria, new virus, and then things like that. Then maybe, we don't know, we have to adopt more advanced technologies in education. The challenges. I'm actually more interested in the challenges because all of us know digital technology, using digital technology in the classroom is not new to any of us. We've been using, YouTube links in the classrooms, and we know that we are using PowerPoint, and we also take, we also take material from websites called SlideShare. Suppose you want to teach a class and you want to know more, you want to strengthen your teaching, then you can read online. Our syllabus is sometimes taken from other universities. So this syllabus is much better than what I'm teaching, so I can adapt the syllabus. And syllabus adaptation, material sharing, and also many things, many advantages and all. But the challenge is, okay, because we are in India and we are Indian teachers, and we have to think of our country, our society, our students, our socio-economic backgrounds, situations, and all. So it is very important to study the challenges in this regard. The first thing is digital literacy. When I say digital and all, some of the teachers maybe who don't know actually, there may be some 10 or 12 or maybe 2 teachers who don't know how to exert the advantages of the digital media fully. We don't know them. It may be new to them. Digital literacy, according to American Library Association, the definition is digital literacy is the ability to use information and communication technologies to find material, evaluate the material, whether that material is suitable to your classes or not, or whether there is anything objectionable, whether anything that is not suited to your society, evaluate the material, and then create your own PowerPoint using pictures, using the video links, using many things, and communicate information requiring both cognitive and technical skills. The teacher has to be very, very strong digitally if we have to continue with the present mode of pandemic education, which is 100% digital, 100% online. The teachers have to be very strong. So how many teachers are digitally complete literates? I'm not talking about using a PowerPoint presentation or WhatsApp. Everybody knows how to use WhatsApp, sending pictures, all that. But classroom technology is beyond that, more than what we see. So the teachers have to be very strong digitally to handle classes online, to adapt the patterns of evaluation, and to do justice to their job. That is the most important thing. And the teacher should know how to consume material online, and then how to create material for students, and also how to share with different people. You prepare some notes and then send it to students, maybe through a link or whatever. The teachers can actually record their lectures. Earlier I told you. So the digital skills of the teachers are very important. The major question is whether the teachers are equipped with this, with these skills or not. Whether they can use confidently how to teach a class on Zoom or Google. What are the facilities that are available on Google? Whether you can, when the class goes on, people keep on talking, or there will be some disturbances because it is home. There may be children crying or the dishes falling. So how to control these sounds? Can you unmute all the mics of the students? Suppose, you are teaching and the student is looking at something, or is not listening, and then whether you can ask them, force them to switch on the videos and sit in front of the computer. There are things that teachers should know everything. How to teach online, and also how to monitor student behavior, whether he is listening, students' participation in the classroom. So these digital skills are very important. And the most important thing is there is a digital divide. Our society, we know that is comprising of mostly poor people and middle class. Okay, socio-economic background of students. How many students have access to smartphones? How many of them can actually operate these, social media things for learning? How many of them can confidently use them? And internet access. Not only that internet is very expensive because, mobile data is different. If you want to buy Wi-Fi, the packages are very expensive and they have to specially invest on that. Internet access has to be thought about, whether they have and connectivity issues. When we talk about student, a class has students from cities, towns, villages, remote areas, tribal areas, everybody. So the digital divide which India is facing is really very, I mean, very difficult to handle with. We may be thinking that, yes, I have Facebook Live, so I can teach, I can go online and teach my students. But what about the connectivity of the students? Most of the students may not have, because, you know, if there are two children in the family, two undergraduate students, whatever, it'll be very difficult for them to provide, two smartphones, that too with, we're not talking about China phones any longer. A good smartphone which has connectivity, which is clear and things like that. So the socio-economic background of the students, many of them are poor or middle class who cannot afford smartphone. If they can afford smartphone, they may not be able to afford the Wi-Fi or internet, or even if they struggle to get both. And people living in remote areas, there is connectivity issue. Sometimes you know that just to make a call, you have to go out of your house. Even in Hyderabad, in my house, sometimes, you know, the signal is and I have to go out to the balcony and speak. So there is a digital divide. And then another thing is the impact of shrinking global economy. Most of the students who are sitting at home now, okay, they may not be in a position to pay for anything. All right. And then if they want to take a printout of something also, they have to go pay for that. And printout may not be very expensive, but still the impact of shrinking global technology, what will happen here is, because it is online, and they find it very strange, and they may not find it very interesting, because in a Zoom, you see number of people on screen, or Google Classroom, or whatever app you use. Okay, and the visibility, suppose you want to see your teacher, you don't have that connectivity with the teacher like you have it in a face-to-face learning mode. So it might, the impact of shrinking global economy, many parents have lost jobs. Many people are receding to their villages to find employment. Many people, we don't know, at least we are sitting here as teachers, we have jobs, but many people, okay, the migrant laborers who move from place to place finding work, they have children who are being educated. And then the shrinking global economy may not permit many of the students to go to colleges. They may look for some work to earn money for the family, and to wriggle out of the financial problems which the family is facing. So the shrinking global economy is another reason why going digital, you know, going to college is different. You are compelled to go to class because of your attendance. So it might be very difficult. And I see a huge cultural backlash in going 100% digital in education. I'm talking about 100% digital in education. What are the cultural problems which we face by going digital 100%? Women and education. You know, this is my special zone because I work on women and media, and then how it impacts them. Okay, I'm worried about women because access to smartphones. Suppose you have one boy and two girls in a family, the smartphone is given to the boy, not to the girls. And then even if you give a smartphone, all right, interference of domestic responsibilities is a big problem, because for many girls, you know, staying at home is mostly for domestic responsibility. I'll come to the teachers' problems also a little later. And then not everybody has a 2-bedroom house or a single bedroom house and things like that. We have to think of people, have-nots. We call them have-nots. So we have to think of students who have just one room and one kitchen, and then there are maybe 4 people living or 3 people living. The home and the ambience may not permit them to focus on their studies. So, and then digital and moral policing, we always check whether they're listening to the class, or maybe they're chatting with somebody, or we do moral policing, especially women, only women, not men. We give them a mobile phone and we send them out, whatever he does. We have a feeling, traditionally our minds are set like, you know, boys have freedom, but women don't have. Even today, 100 years of feminism, 100 years of fighting for equal rights, we still have these, you know, stigmas and taboos on women's education. So can women be freely educated in this scenario? And then their personal freedom is lost, because there is some private space. You know, when you're going to school or going to college, is going to college, going somewhere where you meet your friends, where you can vent your grief, your problems, okay, and then where you're consoled or comforted by your friends. That personal freedom is gone for girls. And some might, because, because it is delayed, and then we don't know whether suppose you don't have internet, you don't have a smartphone, and you have very little chance of continuing your higher education. So most people can go to early marriages and early childbearing. And sometimes being at home can, there are millions of calls to women's about domestic violence at home, children, and then young people, young girls and all, they're subjected to domestic violence while sitting at home in the name of pandemic. So a lot of issues, the 100 years or 200 years of freedom, women's education, emancipation, all these will be questioned. A century-long wait for parity with men is at great risk for women. And this pandemic represents actually all existing inequalities in a doubled, magnified panorama. So you can think about this question, and maybe we'll discuss it later when we do that. Women teachers and work from home. What I feel is not only for women teachers, for any women, working from home is 90% of home and 10% of work. It's very difficult for them because homeschooling and home office, they have to balance home. Children are at home, and women are the caregivers, also breadwinners for the family. Traditionally, we think that only men are breadwinners, but when women work, women have to work for office, women also have to work for home. Working from home is, maybe 90% or 80% of home, you're frequently disturbed, children cry, or maybe there will be demands on you to make tea or coffee or snacks or whatever, and you have to provide food and all. Going to college or school and teaching gives their own space to be real teachers, to spend time for their profession and then to improve themselves and to have their own time. And homeschooling and home office, I'm sure many of the women teachers who are logging in here can understand what are the problems of, you're monitoring your school, your child's school online, and also you're preparing for your class and you're preparing food for your caregiving, especially with sick people at home, sometimes old people at home, this is more. And career advancement and research opportunities for women. Women actually, again, I focus on women, not that I don't like men or something. I'm not trying to be biased because the pandemic and education poses new questions and then more problems to women teachers, more problems to women employees. Say, for example, I don't know, earlier I was talking about Swayam and I'm talking about MOOCs. These are online complete courses which are provided by governments of all countries, most countries especially. You can sit here and access, a course which is offered by Europe, offered in Europe on open educational resources. Okay, I don't know whether you know, because when you go from assistant professor to scale to associate professor and associate to professor, or maybe senior scale for that matter, you need to improve your API scores. That depends on the research you do, the papers you present, the conferences or FDPs you attend. And also you can prepare these courses. Actually, the daily teaching at colleges, it can go actually in the form of a video with supportive material, and it can actually figure in one of these Swayam and MOOCs programs. I don't have time to explain complete details about Swayam and MOOCs, but I suggest after I end this session, maybe after this days, I request all the teachers to explore the possibilities of offering a course on MOOCs or Swayam for your own betterment. So the teachers have to improve. The teachers have to show some research. The teachers have to, women teachers especially have to, all teachers have to advance in their career, but women teachers, it is more difficult because staying at home, I told you, I've already discussed what are the problems faced by teachers. I'm working from home. And then research opportunities. The research today shows that the teachers' research has gone down drastically during the pandemic. Men are able to publish because, they sit at home, they can read, they have access. less work compared to women. So research opportunities. This can really pose a threat to women teachers' career advancement, also research opportunities. Okay, this amounts to cultural backlash because the equality, the parity is difficult to maintain now. And then there is something called emotional and cultural bonding at school. All of us went to school. All of us grew up there. All of us went to colleges. And we remember, we cherish those memories. It may be only 5 years of experience at college, but it is to be cherished for a lifetime. So you have emotional bonding with also teachers. You can go ask, personally, face to face. And then you are exposed to different situations where you are forced to learn, where you're forced to solve things, where you're exposed to critical thinking skills. And emancipation happens only when you have this exposure and when you grow up. Okay, and colleges and schools are places where you meet people from different backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, where you learn mutually from one person to another person. Okay, and then you also develop some tolerance for cultural diversity because you learn to coexist with different cultures. In a country like India with so many diversities, so many languages, so many religions or ethnic groups, it is very, very essential to go and sit with different types of people and mutually learn things and develop your tolerance levels. And when you go to class, we look at teachers for everything, teachers as role models. Okay, when we become teachers, we tend to imitate our teachers, and we learn a lot of things. Teacher is a living, moving. Sometimes they're moving encyclopedias. You can learn things, and then continuous home environment is terribly stressful for both boys and girls. There is no gender discrimination, even for teachers, for example. So stranded socialization can actually lead to mental problems, mental health issues. All of us are facing that, not one or two. I terribly miss my students. Okay, I wish I could see them, I could meet them, I could chat with them. Okay, there's a different bonding and connection I maintain with my students in the classroom. We discuss, we laugh, okay, we learn from each other. And that bonding, that socialization, classroom socialization is completely lost. And physical and mental health, you're sitting at home, you're scared to go out, especially when you have old parents or old grandparents and children. You're scared to go out and move around freely, so you cannot go out. You have to sit. Only thing is you have to study online. And then your personal discipline, which is inculcated in the direct learning, classroom learning, is also interrupted, because when you go to class, there's a discipline. You go to class at time, you have attendance issues otherwise. And then you also sit, you have to switch off your mobile phone and put it in your bag, whatever. And then you have to look at the teacher. Teacher can make sure that you are listening and you are participating in the teaching learning experiences. Okay, you can learn with your peers, and then you can also build relationships. Okay, and campus placements are gone anyways. So relationship building happens at colleges, okay, which is very, very essential for our overall well-being, our physical and mental health. These are the challenges we are facing today. Going to school, college makes a lot of difference in grooming and growing up. Now, I don't think I need to explain more in this regard. Now you can actually picture yourselves. Okay, you can actually have a vision of how things are for the students and how things are for teachers, even how things are for male teachers who have to sit at home rotting sometimes. And then it's boring, forget about boring. And then it is also the stranded socialization actually hamper individuals' personal happiness so much. So all of us can imagine, all of us know what is happening at the moment to education during the pandemic. Education is not going to, going to college and reading some books and then accessing material, writing exams. It's not that. We are not going to do something for paper degrees. Imagine the quality of students we have to prepare to compete with the world outside. today. Because, you know, when you teach, most of you must be teaching communication skills. Many people, many students have this impression that teaching communication skills or learning communication skills is learning English, listening, speaking, reading, writing. If you know these 4 things, then you are done with, you are perfectly all right in terms of communication, and you can get a good job. No. See, think of corporate companies which are mushrooming, which are the main sources of employment for our youngsters. What are they looking at? They're not looking at reading, writing, listening, speaking. They're looking at smart individuals who are technically sound, who have the abilities of critical thinking, who can actually bridge gaps, build relationships, and who are very smart, who can handle multiple tasks, and who can deal with complex situations. Today's learning actually has to help the individual to grow to that extent. Communication skills are no longer learning English speaking or listening or writing something. Apart from the spoken, oral, and written communication skills, the students have to be smart. So critical thinking, problem solving are 2 main ingredients of this now, shaping up the personality. See, when we look at the personality of a student, not how he speaks or how he writes or she writes. So going to school, college makes a lot of difference in grooming and growing up. So the pandemic has hampered that. All of us, challenges in holistic education. I told you, education is not getting a paper degree. Education should be holistic. Like I have already explained, how individuals have to be prepared for the future society. Just reading, writing, knowing your subject matter is only achievement to a certain extent. It is not a holistic achievement. So what we have to do is, holistic education is at question now. Whether the students are missing a lot of things. Teachers are missing a lot of things by not going to college. Okay, digitality alone cannot address the educational problems completely. We can only have some stopgap arrangement by going 100% digital. We can cope with the crisis that is created in education through this pandemic to a certain extent, no doubt about it. So issues in evaluation, online behavior and attitude of students. What will happen, you know, when you teach, the students will be opening, they will be in the, in your thing, you ask them to mute their mics because of the disturbance. Then what are they doing online? Are they listening to you? Can you ensure that they're listening to you? Can you ensure that they, you know, sometimes, most of the times I see my own daughter, they mute the mic and also switch off the video. Okay, they leave it on and they'll be doing their work. Maybe they can even go and have their breakfast, things like that. You cannot ensure 100% presence of mind of the student in online education. Okay, and evaluation and monitoring online behavior. Evaluation also, how will you evaluate whether the student is copying from different websites and submitting an assignment, or whether the student is reading out when you ask a question from some other website? It is possible to have, I'm having a mobile phone with me and also the screen. So to have technology like proctoring examination systems, it will take a lot of time for each and every institute to have the technology. But how are we going to monitor student behaviors, whether he's focusing on his studies or not? Again, this requires a lot of innovative teaching. Many teachers think that, oh, I have to prepare for my lecture. Tomorrow I have class. Day after tomorrow I have class. I have to prepare for my lecture. So I have to sit and learn things for myself and then prepare for my lecture, because I'm going to go live. I'm going to teach on Google Classroom or Zoom. Students might record it, or my principal or my vice chancellor might get the video of what I'm teaching. So I have to be very careful. But let me tell you, the pandemic has made us forget that there is something called interactive teaching, interactive learning. Okay, you can ask the students to participate. You give them a question and ask them to participate in a discussion. You have to be very innovative. individualized projects. Choose your topic of interest in this area, but you have to work on a project. They can actually ask to prepare a collage by taking pictures and then preparing a collage to present an issue. The teachers have to actually explore how to make your online teaching very interesting, especially involving students. Lectures won't help. Lectures won't help at all. It should be an interactive learning where students are an integral part. The role of teacher had changed long back. Actually, we were saying we are not teachers, we are not monitors. We are only facilitators in the classroom where we give them a task, ask them to do that, and we'll give our support and let them invent and reinvent for themselves how to learn, how to assimilate learning, and then change or apply that learning to their lives. So issues in evaluation, monitoring, there are issues in monitoring the students' behavior online. There are issues in evaluating students, whether they copy or not, and then attitude of the students. You can't clearly see them. If you have 40 students in class or 20 students also, it will be very difficult to monitor technically. Okay, and then what should be the post-pandemic approach? Many of you might be under the impression that I'm not supporting digital education at all. I'm not saying, please remember, I've been using this word 100% digital education. We are dealing with that because the topic is pandemic and education at present. How is it going? And then by the time I mean, God willing, if the pandemic is over, if there is a vaccine or medicine, or if there is a way to save lives, and then if we end this, if we could end this pandemic, on returning, what should be our approach? How should we deal with this? I'm not saying digital teaching or 100% digital teaching is wrong. 100% digital teaching, you know, it has its own disadvantages. We have already discussed that. What am I supporting? What am I looking at post-pandemic approach? By then, if it takes another 5 months or 6 months, many students would have dropped out of their courses or colleges. And there's a long gap and we cannot bring them back. There should be a mechanism to bridge this gap by governments, private institutions, public institutions. We have to work out on how to bring students to colleges and schools and bridge this gap. Okay, we can be liberal, no doubt about it. We are already being liberal by reducing 30% syllabus, and then by giving putting less burden on the student. All that is fine. The post-pandemic approach is, even present pandemic approach should be that the teachers should equip themselves with digital mode of teaching. A lot of things. No, you don't need a tutor or teacher for that. You don't need a software person to come and sit with you and do that. Like, nobody taught us how to send messages on WhatsApp, pictures on WhatsApp. Okay, doodling. Or nobody taught us how to send, how to create. We also create pictures and we edit them. We send happy birthday messages, putting the person's picture and all. We learned it all by ourselves. WhatsApp messages, or we know how to watch YouTube and how to comment, how to scold people sometimes. And we also know how to post videos on YouTube. Nobody taught us. So the beauty of digitality is the digitality itself will teach you how to go. Because in the beginning, I did not go for any computer, training before using that. I was so scared to touch the, computer, the keyboard and all. Now we have laptops. But I learned it by myself because the computer itself was guiding me how to learn. Like shut down or restart or my computer or Google. You can see the icons, pictures. I'm sure the people who are going to do the next sessions and all, they'll focus on how these icons and all. And then when they talk about pictures and all, how to, for an expression, we send the emojis, smile, crying, or things like that. We are well equipped already. Only thing is, because this is an FDP program, faculty development program, the teachers have to now, men or women, whatever are your obstacles, you have to look at, okay, an integrated classroom, traditional classroom with integration of technology. All this experience should make you good teachers in future. It should benefit the students, it benefit your careers also. So the post-pandemic approach is take this opportunity because, I don't know whether you heard about it. During Great Plague in London, I think Einstein and also Shakespeare, both of them did their inventions. Shakespeare wrote Antony and Cleopatra and many beautiful poems during that time. King Lear, so dramas like that. So this pandemic actually, if we look at the positive side of the pandemic, it gives us a lot of opportunity to spend time with, learning, our own learning, the teachers, our own learning. We have to explore things. And then there are also in social media, you have fantastic sources like if you open Facebook, if you have something called English Teachers Club. You know what happens there? Teachers actually post their innovations on Facebook, which everybody can see and learn. There are some questions posted. Say, for example, give us a word which ends with R and E or L and E, things like that. And then some people are actually posting their teaching videos through which we can learn a lot. So I look at the positive side of it. Yes, we are going digital because we have no other go. But this will not sustain or this cannot be continued. But definitely digitality should be an integral part of our teaching post-pandemic period. We have to bridge gaps. We have to make it more interesting, more strong. That's what I look at. So digitality is inevitable in the sector of education now because we will be going more digital, and then everybody, each teacher, you have to sit and think that it is an asset to go digital, and it is an asset to be able to prepare your own material. Each and every individual teacher is capable of some innovation or the other. That's what. Each individual is different, but each individual can actually have a vision and think. Each individual, I'm sure, has good and brilliant ideas in one way or the other. You have to record and implement them to reach your students. So I will stop it here because I want to do rest of the things in, I don't know if I have time. I would like to do it in question and answer method. Are you there? Can you hear me? Any interruption?
No interruption, ma'am. Mahalakshmi ma'am, please respond to ma'am's call.
Thank you so much, all of you. I would like to thank, the Vice Chancellor of your university for, making this possible for facilitating this online FDP program. And I thank Dr. Haribabu Tamaneni, who is constantly in touch with me. And then also, the coordinators, Vinay, Jyoti, because they're juniors, I'm taking the liberty to call them Vinay and Jyoti. I'm so sorry. They're all the teachers of your organization, and then all the participants of this FDP program. Thank you so much. Hope that it will give you some useful inputs for your career. When you're giving education, you're giving life to students. By preparing yourselves, you're preparing the students also. So take this digitality in education seriously and equip yourselves for a better future education. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for enlightening all of us with your information and the way you explained us the role and importance, advantages, disadvantages of online teaching, that is digital learning, and about the importance of Swayam, MOOCs, and especially the problems that women teachers are facing in work from home, that is teaching through online at home. Thank you so much, ma'am. Even we have a lot of feedback messages in the chat box from various participants that the information is that the session is very informative. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful message for all of us. Thank you. Now I hand over to our Haribabu sir. Sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Mahalakshmi ma'am, and thank you, Sujata ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
I hope this is the time for question and answer session. Hope participants will raise your hands and then host will give you an opportunity to talk to Ma'am Sujata. And I hope Sujata ma'am will also accept receiving this Q&A session. Is it comfortable for both the parties?
They can
False
even type the question if they want.
Yeah. Even if you are not able to ask, if you can put it in the chat box. I have seen in the whole chat history, ma'am, there were some teachers, and then, coupled with some of the students, they have come up. Why is it not acceptable in assessment that is online? There is something, chat manager, maybe Ramana sir, I think you can sum it up and then give it to ma'am at the end of this section. And before that, anybody else would like to interact with Ma'am Sujata, you can raise your hand. Host will unmute you. If not, on chat box, you can write it down. Paul sir, do we have raised hands?
Srinivas Babu sir, wants to talk, sir.
Yes,
okay.
Sir. You can unmute, sir.
Thank you very much, madam. Am I audible, madam?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you very much for your nice presentation, and I have explained all the things, what are the practicalities and what are the practical problems we face in online teaching. But one thing, madam, is there any effective and quality teaching in online compared to the offline? At the same time, for what extent already you have mentioned some of the interesting areas, how can we create interest among the students? That's also one of the important aspects. But there is a gap between student and teacher in online teaching as far as my experience is concerned in this period, that is 6 months I have been taking up the classes for the students. I am A.S. Babu, Vice Principal and Head of the Department of English, Gayatri College of Science and Management, Srikakulam, madam. You have mentioned many beautiful things. As far as come to the practical and execution of things, we are facing many problems. What I can say that there is no question of content from the side of the students, even teacher also. What we explain, what are the things, I think you might have experienced it and many online platforms also as a resource person. Sometimes you have to touch upon the things, am I audible and do you hear me, or is my presentation is clear or something like that. I too face the same problems. How can we avoid? Of course, I have suggested many things. It is only my reflection, what I can share with you. Thank you very much for your nice presentation, madam. Very wonderful presentation. Your presentation is very clear. There is no question of finding any kind of doubts. Even FDP program means I'm a student, you are a teacher now. Then only I can learn something. Otherwise, we may not do the things well. And another point is, being teachers, whenever we attend some FDPs, we have to try to stay from beginning to the end of the FDPs. Then only we can, there is a possibility for knowledge acquisition, madam. But today, due to that maybe technical problems or something like that, or offline, you can see that more people are simply continuing their presence in FDPs, all these things. As far as online platform is concerned, it started with 200 or 300, many of them, but it is 50 or 40 like that. Whatever it may be, that is different, but that is up to the personal perspective of the teachers. So thank you very much, madam, for giving this opportunity.
Also, there's, I expect power cuts in most of the areas because I did not have power till 9:30. I was really worried about it.
Yes,
that's why digitality has its own limitations. Now, many of them, they may not have power, something to connect to Wi-Fi, things like that. It has its own limitations. That could be the reason why the number receded drastically after the first session.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am, there's this question from Mr. Shanmugh, ma'am. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Why can't you conduct examinations in online to ensure protection for your students in these hard times?
Yes, see, I told you, for example, there are a lot of issues which I know actually there are more issues which I left out because of the time constraints. Online exams you can conduct absolutely fine, but it should be equal opportunity to all. Say, for example, for online, minimum speed of the internet should be 1 Mbps, minimum speed you have to maintain. That's what the proctoring exams, proctored exams I told you. And you must have a continuous power supply and also the internet supply. Online may not be possible for everybody. For example, people with differently able people with disabilities who cannot see, they need a scribe to write their exam. And then people who cannot hear. Also, there are a lot of issues. It cannot be a uniform pattern for everybody. You have to devise a mechanism to conduct exams for those people, those who don't have connectivity. And that is why there are discussions now on, suppose what if people copy online? The mechanism won't permit you. As I told you, online exam, you can have a computer in a separate window, you can open the material and copy it. So people are preferring open book exams now, from closed book exam to open book exams, where the student himself, again, open book exam is misunderstood by many teachers. They think that, open book exam is just looking at a book and copying. Not that. The questions for open book exam are different. They are designed in such a way that the student actually, has to explore and then take the exam, write the answer. So it is very challenging. Open book exam also is very challenging. So as of now, you can conduct exams online, but monitoring will be very, very difficult unless you have some software like proctored examination system. It will be difficult. The governments have to access that. Then you can conduct exams from anywhere.
Thank you, ma'am.
Please, any question?
Yeah, this is almost an end of the session, ma'am. I hope most of the participants would like to take a break for lunch now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And before ending this session, anybody else still would like to ask any questions or on the chat manager? Do you find any questions on chat box, or participants are still struggling to get back to us and asking questions? Please let us know.
So one more question is in the chat box, sir.
Yes.
All right.
How are universities and institutions responsible for teacher training, dealing with the development of media and digital competencies of their teachers and the training of future teachers? That is why I told you in the beginning itself. But this actually FDP program is for faculty development, right? There should be training sessions for teachers and online. You could do that online. Okay, when in the beginning of pandemic, when we were asked suddenly to jump to online teaching mode, I told you in the beginning itself that many teachers, knew nothing about going digital, okay, in teaching. So yeah, we have to conduct, online workshops for students, teachers to teach digitally. Training, and then also teacher training programs have to be modified to suit the present day needs, because the pandemic throws new challenges to the education sector. That we have to, the training itself should be, there should be a component on digital teaching, how to educational technology of course is a part of it, but not the latest technology. So educational technology module should include the digital mode of teaching also. I agree with you completely. We have to take up.
All right, Madam Sujata, you have given us ample hope to understand what is the scenario post-pandemic, and of course, during pandemic, how we all have got ready in understanding the need-based education to be carried out with digital media. Once again, we really appreciate the effort that you have made, Madam. And thanks for all the support that you have rendered for the past 20 days. Soon we have requested you immediately with a timely help you have accepted, consented, and then presented today. Hope you would have enjoyed the fruits of this session. It is, if you can give me the permission, let's end the session 2 now.
Thank you so much.
With
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we have one more. Okay. Along with you, ma'am, today in the fold we have other resource persons. Ali Raja from Iran. Thank you so much, Ali Raja. And we also have Seshidhar Bandhu from KSA. Sir, you are also present, and we are very happy for your time. Though the time into that nation, you have spared your time early in the morning. Thanks for your time and then presence here. Along with that, all the participants, though you have various other jobs parallelly, you all are there with us. Before winding up the session 2, I would just like to give you a brief overview of the sessions. In fact, this is already shared with you all. Day 1, we have had a couple of sessions so far. Okay. In addition to that, we have session 3 that starts by 5:30 p.m. in the evening. Having all requests, we also wanted to see if there is any change in the timeline. We'll be knowing it to you. In fact, session 3 that starts by 5:30 in the evening today. I have had some of the requests for this feedback link and then attendance link. We have already told you it is sentence spoken. Along with that, we also have various polls. The poll that is being conducted directly from AICTE, which naturally collects the attendance of the whole participants. Once you have attended to that poll, your attendance is recorded, and any number of times the same poll will arise. In addition to that, this is all again technical logistics of the event, but above all, we have interesting resource persons in pipeline. We have got Shri Ali Raja tomorrow, and immediately in the evening we have Dr. Krishnavir Abhishek. There is a change from earlier schedule to now the schedule. It can be shared with you all shortly by WhatsApp group. I request all the participants to join WhatsApp group for all the updated information. Along with Krishnavir Abhishek, we have session 4 by Sumit Bhattacharya, and he is Chief of Bureau for Hindu at Visakhapatnam. He talks about mass media communication channels and their impact. Along with him, we have Ali Raja, who talks about integration of mass media and social networks into teaching and learning. And our big old gentleman, Dr. Vijay Bhaskar, a popular playwright, and my old good friend and then guru. He talks about drama as a means of communication. In the middle, we also have various activities. Maybe tomorrow we are going to work on Padlet. Sincerely, I request all the participants to be inside of the sessions effectively. With this, let me end the session 2 by giving once again heartfelt thanks to Ma'am Sujata, who has spared a lot of time here in addressing all of us. Thank you so much. The lines will be open by 5 o'clock in the evening in order to meet the one-time rush, and then by 5:30 we can start the session. Today in the evening, Emotional Language Learning, a study of photography by Dr. Krishnavir Abhishek, a soft skills trainer from Andhra University, is addressing. A young guy with a lot of enthusiasm who wants to deliver a talk in making all the other teachers to understand how emotional language learning coefficient will help all of us. With this, let me end the session with all thank note to everybody who is working on the chat box, Mr. Venkat Ramana, and then being a host, Mr. Paul. And I also congratulate Vinay Kumar, the coordinator of this event. Thank you so much. On behalf of Lendi Institute and Team English of Lendi, we'll be winding up the session now and we'll be meeting by evening by 5 o'clock.